There is one more structure built by Pipher family. The Springhouse was finished by Peter Pipher, complete with datestone in 1827. The two-room Springhouse is located downhill from the spring source, and the cool water flowed into the concrete cooling tanks inside the house. Definitely, it's a pretty effective and cheap engineering solution. The tanks were carefully engineered to take full advantage of the spring water. These would enable the dairy women to cool milk and other perishable food items. Shelves were arranged so that milk pans could be set on them, and cream could rise. Churning, salting, working of butter could also take place in or near the Springhouse.
Watching the clouds up in the sky, all but laughing out loud. I'm telling you why I'm living the life, just me, myself, and I used to think that life was cold and lonely.
The spring water came from this hole into the tank. Once it got filled to the top, the water flowed into the next tank through second hole on the opposite wall. Dairy and perishable foods were kept cool in these tanks for a long time. Before a well was dug, probably the spring was also the household water source. The upper roof structure of the Springhouse was probably replaced late in the 19th century and repaired in 1960s. There is one more building that was erected in the period of Pipher's stewardship. The large concrete barn, I will show it later a bit, in the end of the video. Peter and Elizabeth's son Samuel and his wife Elizabeth had owned the farmstead from 1841 until 1868. It is not reliably known why Samuel and Elizabeth decided to sell the property, which had been in Pipher family hands since 1790. Perhaps they succumbed to the instant wealth offered by the prospective buyers. Samuel and Elizabeth's 5 children were all grown by 1868, so it is also possible that the parents wanted to retire to a simpler life, while in their early to mid-50s. For whatever reason, Samuel and Elizabeth sold the Pipher farmstead in 1868 to Delaware River Slate Company. The company was interested in the Pipher property not for its farming value, but for its geological potential. The farm was located on top of a soft slate belt, and some successful slate quarries had been operating in the area for years. The New York and Delaware River Slate Company owned Slateford Farm from 1868 until 1873. The venture evidently wasn't managed well, and the company's principal stockholders started quarreling among themselves. As a result of this infighting and series of litigation, in 1873, the property was sold at a sheriff's sale to John Morrison, a wealthy New Yorker. He apparently ran the farm in absentia for its quarrying, and possibly tenancy income. Tenants did work the farm for at least a few years during Morrison family ownership. This woodshed was built in the late 19th century, possibly by John Morrison. The Slate shanty. This structure wasn't originally built on the property, but was brought by the National Park Service in the 1970s. Don't know why. Probably for an exhibition purpose. In the following decades, the farm twice changed hands and periodically stayed unoccupied and abandoned. In 1924, it was purchased by Charles Munch, a New York City drugstore business owner. He made many changes on the property, including covering the main farmhouse with stucco cement, changing the Samuel Pipher cabin, building tennis courts. After Second World War, its owner Frank Munch, a son of Charles, contacted Alcoholics Anonymous and arranged to have rehabilitating alcoholics work at Slateford Farm. I found a few photos dated back 1940s. The last building on the property. Known that this barn was made in 1868 when Samuel and Elizabeth Pipher sold the farm to the Slate Company. A concrete roof was placed over the remnant stone walls by Charles Munch, who used the structure as a garage. I barely can imagine what vehicles he kept in this garage in far 1860s. Collective intelligence on Facebook and Reddit couldn't answer what is this suspicious device. Can you? Lumber double-sided planer, corn husk removing machine, walnut cracker, or an apple grinder. Finally, the Slateford Farm was purchased in 1966 by National Park Service as part of the Delaware Water Gap. Reopened as a historic landmark that would highlight the farm's role in both Native American and settlers' history. The farm's architecture and preserved structures can tell stories of the past, reflecting the craftsmanship and lifestyle of earlier generations of Pennsylvania.
And weigh an awful card you can't win. The lose.